Just got done reviewing situational approach. And the situational approach to leadership is very much how it sounds. It's that leaders alter their behaviors and their styles related to the situation and kind of what's going on. So every leader has a preferred style, and they have strengths and skills and traits that make them up as to who they are, but they alter those in situations to really benefit different individuals that they're working with. But what does situational approach tell us about how leaders should work with followers? And what about matching leaders with followers? What does that look like? Well, contingency theories go a little bit deeper into that idea. There are several different contingency theories, and several of the theories that we'll talk about later in this class are also known as contingency theories. However, Fidler's contingency theory is the most widely used. His theory is referred to as the leader match theory, and it states that you should match leaders to appropriate situations. It's called contingency theory because it suggests that a leader's effectiveness depends on how well the leader's style fits the context. So basically, when we know what the situation is, we try to choose a leader that makes sense for that situation. After analyzing the styles of hundreds of leaders who were both good and bad, Fidler and his colleagues were able to make empirically grounded generalizations about which styles of leadership were best and which were worse for a given organizational context. As stated, leadership is contingent upon matching a leader to the setting based on his or her style. So this is the idea that leaders have different styles and not that they utilize different styles, which will be an important component as we move forward. You can use contingency theory to help leaders choose different styles that all work well for them. So backup styles and kind of which one of those that they'll implement. But it really is more about looking at all the situations, situational variables that kind of come together, and assessing what style is best to match that situation and choosing the leader based upon that. So recall that when we've talked about leadership styles so far in this class, that we've primarily talked about them as being either task-based or relationship-focused. The contingency theory uses the least preferred coworker scale to kind of determine whether or not you're someone who is more relationship motivated or more task motivated. So those with high LPC scores, so high least preferred coworker scales, so they're a preferred coworker, are often relationship motivated, and they're more concerned with interpersonal relationships. Those low preferred coworker scores are task motivated and are more concerned with reaching the goal and a personal goal or a group goal as opposed to the relationships that are involved with that. So situations are often described in three different ways and by these three different factors: leader-member relationships, task structure, and position power. So talking about leader-member relationships, this is really the kind of that group atmosphere and really the amount of confidence, loyalty, and attraction that followers have with their leader. So the atmosphere is positive, then followers trust and like their leader, and they would describe their relationship as positive. If the atmosphere is unfriendly or there's a lot of friction that exists within the group, even if it has nothing to do with the leader, the relations are often defined as poor and the leader-member relationships suffer. Task structure is the degree to which the requirements of a task are clear and spelled out. So do people know what they need to do and how they need to go about doing it? A task structure is when the task is clearly stated and known by all the people and known who's required to perform that task. So not only do I know what tasks need to be accomplished, but I also know who's in charge of accomplishing that task. The path to accomplishing the task has a few alternatives, and that we know if those alternatives exist, that there's completion of the task is clearly demonstrated and we know when it was done as a full group, and that we really limited the number of correct solutions to the task so that people know kind of exactly what is expected when it comes to what the accomplishment of the task looks like. So it's important that leaders really define those tasks and give direction. Position power is really how much the authority or leader, how much authority the leader has to whether to reward or punish those individuals that they work with. So this includes that legitimate power that we talked about. So do they have a role that allows them to kind of utilize rewards and punishments? Position power is strong if the person can hire and fire, or if they can give raises in rank or pay. And it's weak if they don't have this authority. So if a leader can't hold their followers to high ideals or doesn't even have the power to do that, it does also kind of impact how we go about determining what the situation is. When we think about these situations, the situations are classified in a couple different ways. The least favorable are those that have poor leader-follower relationships, do lack structured tasks, and have weak leader position power, so the leader is not able really to make too many decisions. And then those that are moderately favorable fall in between the extremes, so those that are somewhere in the middle are considered moderate. This model shows us how contingency model works. People who are task motivated or have a low LPC score will be effective in both very favorable and very unfavorable situations that are really out of control. Relationship motivated or high LPC scores are effective in moderately favorable situations, and that is where there is in some degree of certainty, but things are neither completely under their control nor completely out of their control. So a criticism is that there's not really enough reasoning as to why. Working in the wrong situation can be ineffective. A leader whose LPC score or style does not match a particular situation experiences stress and anxiety when they serve in the leadership role. Under stress, the leader will revert to the less mature ways of coping that were learned or developed early on and may be even more ineffective than they were before. The leader's less mature coping style results in poor decision making, which results in negative work outcomes. Strengths of the contingency theory are that they are supported with a great deal of empirical work or research that's out there. They really does emphasize the importance of focusing on the relationships between the leader's style and the demands of various situations. It is predictive and provides useful information about the type of leadership that is most likely to be effective in certain contexts. It does not require that people be effective in all situations, and it provides data on leaders' styles that could be useful to organizations in developing leadership profiles. So essentially, the application piece of this is that you're able to actually match the leader based on how they lead, whether it be task motivated or relationship motivated or a combination of the both, kind of with what will be best within contingent upon the situation in which you're in. One of the major criticisms of contingency model are that it fails to fully explain why people with certain leadership styles are more effective in some situations. And the LPC scale does not correlate well with other leadership scales, so it makes it hard to really understand how skills mix with this LPC scale. Some response will describe their least likely liked coworker rather than their least preferred. So there's a difference between who they prefer to work with and who they like working with, or who they're currently working with that they really dislike. And it fails to adequately explain what organizations should do when there is a mismatch between the leader and the situation. So how do they actually handle that and move forward? Can that leader develop those skills in that style, or are they kind of stuck there?